All right, so you keep hearing this thing about the black woman is God, the black woman is God. But then we're not told what that really means or why she is God. Now, it seems that you have an idea and understanding of spirituality. But let me say this real quick. You know that we're all spirits that are walking in these things, these bodies, which are vessels. Basically, when the embryo is developing, the first thing that develops is the heart, and then in the heart, what they don't tell us is a brain. All right, there's a brain in the heart. Then the rest of the body goes and forms, and a brain in the head forms. But the brain in the heart is much stronger and much more powerful than the brain in the head. And the brain in the heart is said to be that of the spirit. So what happens is we tend to walk in the brain of the head, and we are detached from the brain of the heart, which is the spirit. That's the mind of the spirit. That's why you hear people saying all the time, I should have gone with my first mind, or listen to what your heart says. That's what they're talking about, and that's what we miss. Now, above that, this is the data that a lot of women don't want to hear, that a lot of women don't appreciate. We don't understand who we are and what we are as women. So what I have to do is break it down from here. Again, we are all spirits. When we first start, we are all divine. Meaning, what does divine mean? Divine means to divide. It means duo. It means two. It means yin and yang. Divine means both. Dos or deuce or dos. Dos in Spanish, deuce in French. That's what divine means, to be able to divide. In the spirit form, that's what we all are. However, we come down into these vessels, it becomes a different story, because the third dimension is the lowest dimension of all. And what happens is our vessels are chosen based on the energy, because I don't know if we all be hearing about reincarnation and all this. Women come with all of their embryos, and her embryos have spirits within them. That's why women tend to be more spiritual. All of the embryos that she is carrying with her, all of them are females. And all of them have divinity, because again, when I say feminine, feminine is the masculine and the feminine. So like they talking about this divine feminine and divine masculine. Divine feminine is a redundant statement. Feminine is masculine and feminine, and it doesn't need that term divine. They throw that term in there to confuse us. And then they want to go say divine masculine. Divine masculine is an oxymoron, because divine means to be able to divide. It means to possess both. And you hear people say, well, he got the feminine and the masculine in him, but he does not. That vessel that he is in is not divine. It cannot divide. You cannot get a male from a male. You can't get a woman from a male. You can't get anything. That vessel does not possess divinity. And what we have to remember is that he is not the vessel. All right, that his spirit, and that's the problem. That, see, what males tend to do is they tend to be very disconnected from their spirit, because they're disconnected from the brain of the spirit. They more so focus on the brain and their mind. When a woman gives in her second and third month, this is the time that is going to determine whether or not that embryo deforms into a male. What did I just say? Deforms. Now they want to tell us that, oh no, the sperm is what determines the sex of the child, and the sperm is that is not true. So let's understand this. The sperm, what the sperm does is it gives the embryo a vibration that causes mitosis. The woman has the ability to do that herself. And it's called Parthenogenesis, and man has known this. The deal is that he doesn't want her to remember this, because, see, she is the one who controls the beings on this planet. I just told you that based on her, the way she is, what mentally, physically, and emotionally, that determines whether or not that embryo deforms into, and notice I'm saying deforms because that's what happens. The embryo becomes a genetically modified being when that happens. And so this is what I'm saying is it loses its divinity based on what she is going through. So is she getting her ass kicked in her relationship? She's not happy. She doesn't like her job. She doesn't like herself. You know, whatever. She's not eating right. All of that is chaos. If she's got chaos within that second and third month of being pregnant with that embryo, it's going to deform into a male. Now, let's understand what that does because, a lot of people look at it and they think, oh, that's kind of harsh, Steve, but that's, that deform. That is what happens. That is a scientific fact. And the thing is, that is something that we can go and look up, and women don't want to hear this, that what men are. And let's understand what I'm saying when I say a genetically modified being. Now, let's talk about other genetically modified beings that we know of. Caucasians. Caucasians are genetically modified. Cancer is a genetic modified object. A genetically modified food, those are genetically modified. Let's talk about what their characteristics are. A genetically modified object tends to, like a parasite, take over that which created it. It tries to control that which created it. Let's ask this question because we don't like to ask questions and face the reality of the situation we're in. Does a male or a man possess the characteristic traits of a genetically modified object? Does a man try to control that which created it? Well, let's talk about what is religion and where it came from. All religions are created by men. All major religions are created by melanated men. Let's talk about what the Bible is because we don't understand what this book is. Now, I can tell you with respect to the Old Testament, those come from our ancestors. And what we don't understand is matriarchy was around long before patriarchy. There's way more information about matriarchy than there is about patriarchy, but it's all been hidden. We've been lied to about it. And we've been even the Bible, they've turned it into a religious construct. They've taken out all of the things that women did. They've taken that out, and the stuff that they left in, they changed the characters to males. A lot of these characters in the Bible, in the Old Testament, we thinking of males. They're actually females. You know the Sphinx? You've heard of the Sphinx over there in Africa, right? That was the image of a melanated woman. That image was a female, a melanated female. And recently they cut the nose off. When I say recently, but that was cut off because they don't want you to know it was a melanated person. But before that, they went and reconstructed the face and put a beard on it to turn it to a male. That's a female. They don't want you to know that. But what has happened is, even in religion, they've changed a lot of the things. And they've used this patriarchy and this religion to control the mind of the woman and make her feel subjugated. We're in a situation where we're understanding that what the male being is. All right, it's basically a deformed female is what it is. What happened is that you've got these beings that are genetically modified, and we're not understanding what the nature of the vessel. Remember, we are all just spirits riding in these vessels. But in these vessels have their own brain. But a lot of us end up operating from the brain of the mind instead of operating from the brain of the spirit. And so that's where the problem is, especially with males, because they are more cut off from the spirit because of the vessel that they're in. And they don't understand that. And we have to remember that they are genetically modified beings. And in being that, they're going to act like it if they're not operating in the spirit. So we have to understand that when he comes into that, when that spirit comes into that vessel, it is a deformation. And just like with any other genetically modified object, it is going to fight against nature. You as a woman are nature. And he is going to, if he is operating in his vessel, he going to want to control you. He going to want to subjugate you. You understand? He's going to want to put you beneath him. That is what his vessel does. And this is why with matriarchy, the male was always taught to put the female on a pedestal, to put her above all, because his nature, it is in his nature as that being to try to fight against her. But when he is coming from the spirit, when he's worshiping her, he's not going to try to fight against her, because he's going to understand, well, he is in a degraded vessel. Because originally we were the gods. You understand? We created them for a purpose. But we forgot who we were. They were slaves. They were slaves. They were slaves. We didn't want to do the shit that we're supposed to do. And so you got to understand, everything that comes against us as people and beings, it is done because of some energy that we put out. Again, melanated people suffer because of the shit that they did in the past, the energy that they put out in another vessel. So what I'm trying to get to you is that we are in a situation that is unnatural. We don't understand these beings that we are trying to contract with. And it's not, listen, let me help, let's understand this. All of them, like all of us, we done recycled in men's bodies, recycled back out into a woman, but we probably done been in all kind of different vessels. And he was probably in a female vessel. Now he's in a degraded vessel. And the thing is, he's still a spirit. And we've got to get him, when he cycles out of here, we want him to recycle back into a divine vessel so that we can raise our level and get the hell up out of here. You understand? So we don't do that by cutting him off. We don't do that by fighting him. We got to understand what love is. And I want to say this. I won't go into love right now, because I want to say this. We've got to understand how to bring them back into this dimension, but we have to also know how to contract with them so that we don't bring chaos into our life, because again, men come out of chaos. We've got to understand how to contract with them so that we don't allow chaos into our life. You understand what I'm saying? We've got to learn how to love them in these vessels so that we can get them to cycle back in here in a divine vessel, because they don't understand that they've fallen. They keep falling, and we fall. Because some of us recycle back into this thing in a degraded vessel like them. This is why you're seeing all these men popping up. You see families with a lot of men, you see a lot of chaos. You understand what I just say? People can tell you, let me say this to you. And people can tell you out their mouth, no, you know, we got a good marriage. But if you're looking at a woman with 3 sons, you can tell me whatever you want to out of your mouth. But the universe is showing me what's going on in your house. You understand? See, it's just like, can a fat person walk up to you and tell you, oh no, I eat a plant-based diet. I eat all healthy, and that's, I only eat healthy stuff. Can a fat person walk up to you and tell you that and you believe it? Okay. So if a woman walk up to you with 3 sons and she want to tell you she's happily married, she can't even come out of her mouth with that shit and look you square in the eye, because you already know. Oh, you got 3 sons. No, you was living in chaos.